the mind's remote control. How scientists are learning to steer brain networks back to health. What if the human brain was like a vast orchestra, with billions of neurons playing in perfect harmony, until suddenly a stroke silences entire sections, leaving the music fractured and incomplete? What if scientists could become conductors, learning to guide the remaining musicians back into synchrony, restoring the symphony of thought and speech? This is the revolutionary world of brain network control theory, where mathematics meets medicine to rewrite the rules of neurological recovery. Deep within the intricate networks of the human brain, a hidden war rages every day. When stroke strikes, it doesn't just damage individual brain cells, it shatters the delicate communication pathways that allow different brain regions to work together. The result is often devastating: the loss of language, movement, or memory. But what if we could fight back? What if we could use the brain's own network properties to guide it toward healing? The stakes could not be higher. Stroke affects millions of people worldwide, with post-stroke aphasia, the loss of language abilities, leaving patients trapped in their own minds, unable to express their thoughts or understand others. Traditional rehabilitation approaches work slowly, if at all, often leaving patients and families frustrated by the limited recovery. A new frontier in neuroscience is emerging, one that treats the brain not as a collection of isolated regions, but as a dynamic, controllable network that can be steered back toward health. The fatal flaw in brain control. For years, scientists have dreamed of controlling brain networks to treat neurological disorders. The concept seems straightforward: identify damaged brain regions, stimulate them back to normal function, and restore lost abilities. But this approach contained a fundamental flaw that researchers are only now beginning to understand. Traditional brain stimulation techniques like transcranial magnetic stimulation and transcranial direct current stimulation treat the brain as if it were a simple machine. Push this button, get that response. These methods focus on driving brain networks from one discrete state to another specific state at a single moment in time. It's like trying to fix a broken symphony by forcing each musician to play a single perfect note, ignoring the flowing dynamic nature of music itself. The problem runs deeper than simple technical limitations. Most existing research overlooks two critical factors that make the brain fundamentally different from any machine humans have ever built. First, the brain never stops moving. It exhibits spontaneous dynamics and constant background activity that traditional models ignore entirely. Second, the essence of brain function isn't found in static states, but in the flowing patterns of activity that unfold over time, like the melody of a song rather than individual notes. This oversight has led to a crisis in brain stimulation research. Current approaches assume that brain dynamics can be simplified to linear, deterministic systems without considering the noise and spontaneous fluctuations that are actually essential to healthy brain function. It's like trying to understand a river by studying only still photographs, missing the current, eddies, and flow that define its true nature. The revolutionary solution. The breakthrough came from a radical reconceptualization of what it means to control a brain network. Instead of trying to force the brain into specific states, researchers developed optimal stochastic tracking control, a method that guides brain dynamics toward healthy patterns while respecting the brain's inherent complexity and variability. This approach treats the brain as what it actually is: a stochastic dynamic system where noise and spontaneous activity aren't bugs to be eliminated, but features to be embraced. The goal shifts from pushing one brain state to another discrete target to synchronizing entire dynamic patterns, making the statistical properties of diseased brain activity similar to those of healthy brains. The mathematical framework behind this revolution draws from advanced control theory, treating brain networks as complex systems that can be guided rather than forced. Instead of applying crude stimulation to drive specific outcomes, the system calculates optimal control strategies that work with the brain's natural dynamics to achieve therapeutic goals with minimal energy expenditure. The key innovation lies in understanding that different brain regions have different levels of controllability, their ability to influence the broader network when stimulated. Some regions act like master switches, capable of driving global changes across the entire brain with minimal input. Others serve as local controllers, fine-tuning specific functions without disrupting the larger system. By mapping these controllability patterns, researchers can identify the most efficient targets for therapeutic intervention. The architecture of neural control. The human brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons organized into intricate networks that span multiple scales of organization. At the largest scale, distinct brain regions communicate through long-range white matter connections, creating a structural backbone that constrains how information flows through the system. But within this structural framework, functional networks emerge and dissolve dynamically, creating the flexible patterns of activity that underlie thought, emotion, and behavior. Understanding brain controllability requires mapping both structural and functional connectivity patterns. Connectivity, revealed through diffusion tensor imaging, shows the physical highways along which neural signals travel. Functional connectivity, measured through techniques like functional magnetic resonance imaging, reveals which brain regions actually communicate during different tasks or states. The relationship between structure and function in brain networks follows principles that echo throughout complex systems in nature. Regions with high average controllability tend to be those with diverse structural connections that allow them to influence many other brain areas. These regions can drive the network into many different easily reachable states, making them ideal targets for broad therapeutic interventions. In contrast, regions with high modal controllability have the ability to drive the brain into states that are difficult to reach through other means. These regions often serve specialized functions and may be crucial for accessing specific cognitive or motor abilities that have been lost following brain injury. The stroke recovery revolution. When stroke damages brain tissue, it doesn't just eliminate the affected regions. It disrupts the entire network architecture that those regions participated in. Language networks that once functioned seamlessly become fragmented, with surviving brain areas struggling to compensate for their lost partners. The traditional approach to stroke rehabilitation focuses on retraining specific skills through repetitive practice, but this ignores the network-level reorganization that must occur for true recovery. The optimal stochastic tracking control framework offers a fundamentally different approach. Instead of trying to restore individual brain regions to their pre-stroke function, it focuses on guiding the entire network toward healthy dynamic pattern. This means identifying which surviving brain regions have the highest controllability and using targeted stimulation to help them take over functions previously performed by damaged areas. The mathematical analysis reveals surprising insights about stroke recovery. Regions in the limbic system, traditionally associated with emotion and memory, show some of the highest control energy requirements, suggesting they play crucial but underappreciated roles in network-wide recovery. Meanwhile, visual and default mode networks often require less energy to control, making them potentially efficient targets for therapeutic intervention. Perhaps most remarkably, the research shows that controlling just 5 strategically chosen brain regions can achieve acceptable control effects across a 100-dimensional brain network system. This finding suggests that effective stroke rehabilitation might not require broad, intensive interventions, but rather precisely targeted stimulation of a small number of high controllability regions. The energy landscape of recovery. One of the most profound discoveries emerging from this research is the relationship between control energy and intrinsic brain network properties. The energy required to guide brain dynamics toward healthy patterns isn't randomly distributed across brain regions. It follows predictable patterns based on the underlying network architecture. Brain regions with high average controllability consistently require less energy to achieve therapeutic effects, while regions with high modal controllability show no consistent relationship with control energy. This suggests that the brain's natural network organization has evolved to make certain types of control efficient, while others remain energetically expensive. The spatial distribution of control energy reveals fascinating patterns across different brain systems. The limbic system, including structures involved in emotion and motivation, consistently ranks among the highest energy consumers for optimal control. This finding challenges traditional views of stroke rehabilitation, which often focused primarily on motor and language areas while overlooking the emotional and motivational networks that may be crucial for recovery. Conversely, visual processing areas and parts of the default mode network require relatively little energy to control, despite their importance in cognitive function. This suggests that these regions might serve as efficient entry points for therapeutic interventions, allowing clinicians to achieve broad network effects with minimal stimulation. The precision medicine future. The implications of this research extend far beyond stroke rehabilitation. The framework provides a mathematical foundation for personalizing brain stimulation therapies based on individual network properties rather than one-size-fits-all approaches. By mapping each patient's unique controllability landscape, we could identify the most efficient targets for intervention and predict which patients are most likely to benefit from specific treatments. The technology could revolutionize how we approach a wide range of neurological and psychiatric conditions. Depression, schizophrenia, epilepsy, and neurodevelopmental disorders all involve disrupted brain network dynamics that might be addressable through targeted control strategies. Instead of treating symptoms with broad-acting medications, future therapies could use precise stimulation protocols to guide brain networks back toward healthy patterns. The research also reveals the importance of timing in brain network control. Different brain regions show varying levels of controllability at different times, suggesting that therapeutic interventions might be most effective when timed to coincide with natural fluctuations in network dynamics. This could lead to adaptive stimulation protocols that adjust their targets and intensity based on real-time measurements of brain activity. The challenges ahead. Despite these promising advances, significant challenges remain before optimal stochastic tracking control can become a clinical reality. The mathematical framework requires detailed knowledge of individual brain network parameters, which currently demands sophisticated imaging and computational resources that may not be available in all clinical settings. The translation from theoretical models to practical interventions also faces fundamental limitations. Current brain stimulation technologies, while increasingly sophisticated, still provide relatively crude control compared to the precision required for optimal network control. Future advances in stimulation technology, possibly including closed-loop systems that adjust their output based on real-time brain activity, will be necessary to fully realize the potential of this approach. The research also highlights the need for better understanding of how brain networks respond to sustained interventions over time. The current models focus on short-term control effects, but clinical recovery often requires weeks or months of treatment. Understanding how repeated stimulation sessions interact with natural plasticity mechanisms will be crucial for developing effective long-term rehabilitation protocols. The network revolution. The emergence of optimal stochastic tracking control represents more than just a new therapeutic technique. It embodies a fundamental shift in how we understand the brain itself. Rather than viewing neurological disorders as problems with individual brain regions, this approach recognizes them as network-level phenomena that require network-level solutions. This perspective has profound implications for how we think about brain health and disease. Mental disorders, cognitive decline, and neurological symptoms may all reflect disruptions in network dynamics rather than localized pathology. By learning to read and write the language of brain networks, we gain unprecedented power to understand and treat the full spectrum of brain-related conditions. The research also reveals the remarkable efficiency of biological control systems. The fact that just a few strategically chosen control points can influence entire brain networks suggests that evolution has optimized neural architecture for controllability. This insight could guide the development of artificial neural networks and brain-computer interfaces that leverage similar principles. The symphony restored. The human brain remains the most complex system known to science, with its billions of neurons creating patterns of activity that give rise to consciousness, creativity, and the full spectrum of human experience. When stroke or other injuries disrupt these patterns, the resulting disabilities can seem insurmountable, but the emerging science of brain network control offers new hope. By treating the brain as a dynamic, controllable network rather than a collection of isolated regions, researchers are developing tools that could restore function with unprecedented precision and efficiency. The mathematical frameworks that once seemed purely theoretical are now guiding real therapeutic interventions, offering new possibilities for millions of people living with neurological disabilities. The journey from laboratory to clinic will require continued advances in both theoretical understanding and practical technology. But the foundation has been laid for a new era of precision neuromedicine, where treatments are tailored to individual network properties and guided by mathematical principles rather than trial and error. The orchestra of the mind, once silenced by injury, may soon learn to play again. Through the careful application of control theory to brain networks, scientists are writing new scores for recovery, harmony restored through the marriage of mathematics and medicine. The symphony of human consciousness, in all its complexity and beauty, may prove more resilient and controllable than we ever dared imagine. The revolution in brain network control is just beginning, but its implications stretch toward a future where neurological recovery is not a matter of hope, but of mathematical certainty. In the intricate dance of neurons and networks, science is learning the steps that lead from injury back to health, one controlled dynamic at a time. Please like and subscribe, share this video, or support the creator. Thank you.